So what's the deal?
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Cruxman, episode 13 with my man Salt. I am your boy Papa, or so that's what they
Yes,
call
indeed.
me. And we're happy to be back. Today I'm going to kick it off. I got something that I heard earlier. I heard a comedian talking earlier, and it kind of spawned a thought in my brain. And he said, because I'm just going to come out and get out. Actually, you know what? Before I dive in too far, I'm going to do something I haven't done on this show yet.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready, when you're done sexting, you let me know because
All right.
that's part of it too. You ready? You ready for this?
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'm going to drink water.
As you should. Gotta hydrate. Must
Yum.
hydrate.
It's so much better than alcohol. Fuck. This
Indeed
no
it is,
drinking thing is
as the
going to kill
scientists
me.
say.
Not the drinking. The drinking wasn't killing me. The no drinking is killing me. You want to know why? First and foremost, out the
Why
gate,
is that?
I don't go to sleep as easy. I just don't. I can't turn my brain off.
Shit.
I am now losing sleep. Now, some would argue that I'm gaining quality in my sleep because it's not drunken sleep. But, and I'm not even saying that I would get drunk every night, but sober sleeping is great. Sober going to sleep is miserable. It's horrible. Because I can't turn off my brain. Anyway, I don't want to dive down that rabbit hole too much, but okay. So there was this back on target here. There's a comedian, and he was talking about. He goes, you really got to learn to enjoy the old folks, the old people. He's like, get out there and know them. They got stories. You know what I mean? They'll show you a picture when they were little in the 1940s. Oh yeah, this is me sitting on my grandfather's lap, and he did this, that, and the other, and you're like, oh man, like, and this is my great grandfather standing next to this president, and you're like, oh man, like, this is really cool. He goes, so get out there and get to enjoying the old people today, because the generation of old people that are coming up are going to be miserable human beings. Could you imagine the 20-year-olds of today on TikTok and all these different things, and he's like, when they're sitting there showing their grandkids, they're going to be like, and here's a picture of what I ate for breakfast. And here's another picture of what I ate for breakfast. And here's 17 pictures of me doing the same stupid pose in the mirror. And I'm like, you know what? That's an excellent point. I mean, we look at photos now. I'm telling you right now, like I'm not even going to look at my phone. I bet I have, in the last 8 years, especially since I've had kids, I've probably got 10,000 photos.
Easy.
Yeah. So here's what I would like to do. Would you like to play a game?
Sure.
Okay. I'm glad you said that, because had you said no, I wouldn't. I wasn't sure where to go with that. Yeah. So, Salter, if that is your name, I would like for you to respond like you're a 20-year-old from today, but 60 years from now.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I looked up the 10 hardest topics to talk about with the youth of today, and I don't understand why. Yeah. So you want me to start with the hardest and go easy, or easy and go hard?
Let's do easy first.
Okay. I got them right here. This is going to be like unlike any episode we've ever done before, and I promise you guys, as you know, we don't do any of this scripted. So Salt has no idea what's coming. So you're right. Puberty.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, that's the number 10 hardest thing to discuss with the youth of the day. So
I don't know why. Well, I mean, I guess because nobody knows what the hell they are these days, so I guess that'd be
Okay,
tough.
all right.
You're
Now,
talking puberty with your son, so you think, but then he's really a girl. But then it's like, that's a it's a tough conversation. Where do we go from here?
so
Now,
so
I mean,
so
for me, if I'm getting,
if
I'm gonna have to get
you're
up. I'm gonna have to walk and send his mom in there.
so if you're a but you're not you.
You know,
Okay, right now you're a 20-year-old of today having this conversation with you, the 80-year-old yourself. So 60 years from now, how do you explain yourself as you're going through? How do you tell yourself in the future? I was going through puberty, and even though I was born with a dick, I didn't feel like I should have one. And maybe that led me to making a decision that 60 years from now you still regret. Or maybe you don't. But how do you have that conversation with yourself
maybe.
60 years from now?
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to even go there. It's like putting. It's even like me. I try to wrap my head. Like watch some of these. Like I was watching Dahmer. And it's hard to put myself in that mindset when it's like completely just not me. That's like not how I operate. It's abnormal to me. I came up in a different era. On top of that, a lot of this stuff, even like the super sensitive thing, doesn't compute for me. So, but I mean, okay. So if I'm gonna try to have this conversation with myself, and I'm older, my older self, my 20-year-old self, talking to my 60-year-old self, talking about puberty,
Because I mean,
I would
like,
say, I hope you're happy. Shit, my older self talking to my younger self. I hope you're happy. Shit, because I mean, like this is I hope you're happy. It depends on how it plays out, right? If I have zero regrets, then I'd be like, you know what, hey, we lived our truth, right? And that way everybody says, you lived your truth, and it
right?
worked out beautifully. And
No,
you know what? We've been
no
better for it.
regrets. Yeah,
Zero regrets.
yeah.
Yeah, no regrets at all, and we're better for it. If I'm not happy and I did a whole lot of work to reattach said penis, and now I got this weird Frankenstein type joint down below, and it's like half dead, half alive. They've got all kinds of science running through my joint, and I got, you know, sperm that was grown
Science.
in a test tube that they inject into my artificial balls. Then yeah, I'm probably upset. I'm upset with that whole
You've
situation.
either researched this or you've talked to people who have done it, because you just came up with a much more specific answer than so. And
I mean, this is me.
here's like how
This
do
is
you
me on
how
the
do you, I
fly. I
just
have no idea where I would even go with
right. Right, and that's kind of the whole point, right? Because it kind of got me thinking. I was like, man, like these kids today, like our grandparents were busy fighting World War II, and if it wasn't World War II,
Mm,
they probably at a minimum they were at least alive during World War II or born during
yeah.
it, or they saw Korea or they saw Vietnam. So
Hmm.
like I wonder if the kids of today, this is going a little bit differently than I thought, but it's going in a great direction. And I'm not homophobic, and I've probably said that a million
Uh,
times, but it is interesting to me. I wonder if people have too much time on their hands now. Like they have too
well,
much
that's
time
exactly what I was gonna say.
to not be distracted by world chaos, if you will. So they're creating
Hmm.
chaos
I mean,
for themselves, maybe.
absolutely. Life's too. If it's too easy, people get bored, and it's what idle hands are the devil's workshop. So I mean, whether this is how you feel or not, whatever. But like, it's gotten too easy where you're not worried about survival. You're now thinking stuff that is your mind starts playing tricks on you after a while. And I'm not saying like there's some folks like legit straight up and down like that's how they are. But for like you're saying like the way they're kind of promoting on TV that like the masses are kind of like you why are the fact that you're giving a 2-year-old a choice of what it wants to be. This isn't some kung fu movie. Choose the ball, you go with your mother. You choose the sword, you come with me. You know what I'm saying? Like this, it's nothing like that. It's the most basic thing in this planet. When you're born with certain equipment, it was just kind of case closed. That's one less thing that a kid had to worry about. Now they don't even know from everyone's giving them options, right? Like analysis paralysis, right? You take me to a cheesecake factory and I'm flipping through that entire damn menu and I'm like, oh, I really don't know what to get. There's so many things I would like to eat on this menu. You take me to an In-N-Out, boom, I want 2 patties, case closed. You want grilled onions? Yes or no? Yes, I do. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's less options, so I can make a very quick, decisive decision. You know what I'm saying? Like boom, boom. You know. Whereas like now, you got a little kid who doesn't even know what the hell is up and what's down, and yet you're telling them, well, what do you want to be first? Do you want to be a boy or a girl? They have no fucking clue
Like
what that
the
even
the
means and how
one
it's going to impact them down the road.
and if I may, the one choice that was made for you before you came out of your mama's vagina is now being put back on your plate. You have all these other choices
it
in life.
be a thing.
There's one thing. I mean, there's two things, two decisions that are made for you before you were born. One, to be born in the first place. You don't have any say in that.
Name.
Two, I mean, yeah, but I mean, people have been able to change their name for a long time.
True.
But now you can change. You don't just change the name on the birth certificate. You can change the gender, right? And before you're even at full mental maturity, you know what I mean? And we've talked about that before too. I mean, I can't imagine. Now, granted, they let us drive cars when we're 16, buy cigarettes, and join the military when we're 18, drink alcohol when we're 21. And you and I both know that the average male doesn't reach full mental maturity until about 28. So you can do all these things before you're, scientifically, mentally mature, or at least at your peak. And you're talking about under the age of 10 years old. Okay. We've talked about that topic a lot, so I don't want to get too caught up in that. I'm going to skip number 9 because it's along the same lines. It's STDs.
Okay. We getting burnt.
Yeah, we can talk about that when I have to have that conversation with my kids.
I would say, if anything, if that conversation is, you know what, you shouldn't have fucked that girl. Getting torched.
Go the Van Wilder approach. Hooked up with a burner. She said it was her first time. He's like, yeah. Don't be a fool. Wrap your tool.
100%.
All right, number 8, because you're guilty of this. Sexting.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't see any wrong with that. I think it gets. I mean,
so
now,
what's too far? Okay. Yeah.
What's too far? Dick pics.
Yeah.
It's in my mind. Dick pics are too far.
It'd be even better is you being a 20-year-old trying to explain this to your 80-year-old grandfather.
Yeah, especially when your meat still on your phone and it pops up from Google talking about 10 years later or 10 years ago this was you and you got like your meat next to a watch or something like that. How do you explain that? Your kids flipping through your photo albums. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Dad, can you explain this? You know what? Why do you have my phone? Put my shit down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that. So to me, I think I'm not whoever takes dick pics, God bless you. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a very awkward pose to hold your, first and foremost, what position is it in? Is it flaccid or is it hard? You know what I'm saying? First and foremost. So you got to think that part through. What are we trying to show, right? And then are you decorating it? Are you painting something on it?
I think the hardest part about taking a hard dick pic would be keeping it hard while you're also trying to take the right angle, because you're not focused anymore on like getting hard. So you get the right angle and all of a sudden you take the pic and you look down, you're like, damn.
This is, and then do you do it from a distance? Do you do it for what angle? You know what I'm saying? Some girls, they take pictures from certain angles and they wear black because it makes them look slim.
You definitely don't do it. You definitely don't do it from a distance. You definitely don't do it from a distance.
100%. Yeah.
No, I don't need anything getting
like,
caught in the background to make me look smaller.
Boom, right? Or do you put it next to your remote control just to kind of show them like an idea of what you're working with? I don't know. This to me, the whole dick pic game, and I've asked women too. I was like, would you you like a dick pic or stuff like that? That's very blurry. Something you know what I'm saying. Like I've asked them and they're like, no, it's gross. I was like, good, because I'm not going to give it to you anyway. I mean, I think that's I don't know, something about dick pics to me is mind blowing. It doesn't. I don't know. I don't know many women where it does anything for them, but at this point, I think people have no problem putting themselves out there. Which hey, more power to you. That's just not my style. So I would say the only reason why I would tell my younger self you're an idiot is if you know I don't know, it just kind of blew up in my face. Somehow, some way down the road, the way they can do biometrics with your face, they can do that with your dick, and then they can pretty much pinpoint all your dick pics all over the internet, and it comes back to haunt you somehow, some way.
So, well, I mean, look, I don't think any of us, I mean, I would say there's very few of us anyway that actually know what we want to be when we get older. Well, let's just assume you're in high school and you don't realize you want to run for public office until you're graduating college, and you got your man meat all over the internet. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yep. And
it can
and,
come
and
back
say
to
you're
haunt
not
you.
like a Tommy Lee type. You know what I'm saying? You're over there working with the head's barely poking out the bushes. They're gonna be like, you know what? We don't want this guy representing us in office. This guy, he ain't working with nothing. This guy is garbage. You better have like a very big brain. You better be very smart. That's your only way in, baby. That's your only way in. Shit. Maybe that's You know what? You have to get augmented too, because in a few ways you ain't gonna get in. Chicks ain't gonna respect that.
You're
So
over here
yeah, I don't
running
know.
around
If you're lonely
like Kim
and
Jong.
you're having to use your pinky, you have to use your pinky just to kind of get yourself right. Yeah, then that's a horrible way to live. So
If you're
yeah, I
barely
would say.
peeking
So
out the
so
bushes,
sexting, man, you better trim them all the way back, all the way back. And then at that point, you're showing like zero length. I'm like, God damn, it's at the base and then straight to the head. Holy smokes, looking like Toadstool out there. So I don't know.
shiitake.
I would think, yeah, like Hangover 2. You mean I don't know. I would think that. I think sexting isn't. I think sexting isn't bad. I actually, I you know, I can get into that. I've had conversations. It's nice. It's a good. Great way to preheat the oven, if you will. You know what I'm saying? With the depending on who you're talking to and whatnot, especially if they get into it too. I mean, it's a nice little back and forth whatnot. But like, I think where it gets extreme is where if I'm in a position where I'm just like, now you're talking like dick pics and stuff. I think dick pics are weird. That's just me. So I don't think there's anything wrong with sexting. But if it gets into the wrong hands, you're screwed. Unless you're just a really good writer and everybody's like, you should probably write a book. You're like Eric Jerome Dickey out here. I'm like, oh shit, maybe you're right. So I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's at that point it's fantasy sexting. It's just
Yeah,
fantasy talk. So
yeah, I
yeah,
like that.
I guess I think it's a
Okay,
creative juices going. So yeah,
so sexing good, STDs bad.
yeah,
Okay, got it. All right, all right.
yeah,
Let's take a
yeah. Getting
let's
burnt
take a
is no fun for nobody.
let's take a hard left. No pun intended by this.
Mm,
Gun violence. So
okay,
Second Amendment.
gun violence in terms of what I think it's necessary on some level. You know what I'm saying? I think if you come into my crib and you ain't
But are
supposed to
you
be here,
talking? Are you
you're
talking
acting some kind of a
as?
way.
Are you
Blasphemy.
talking as 39, 40-year-old salt, or are you talking as 20-year-old?
I'm talking any day, every day, all day.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I would say this is me now, especially. Back in the day, I wasn't about that. I'm still not about that. Let's just be clear. But I think you should protect yourself 100%. I don't think guns should be banned. I think they try to ban them. I think they're still going to be there. I don't think that changes anything. I think, for me, like I'm teaching my kid, I'm like, yo, just know how to handle it. I look at guns as being a tool. It's like having a set of kitchen knives. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna. And granted, I could take a kitchen knife and go straight to work, start banging on people. I could do that, right? So a gun is just a more efficient way to kill if you're in that mindset. But to ban it doesn't do any good. It's a tool. It's a very useful tool. That's what's put us on the top of the food chain. You know what I'm saying? But now we're just using on each other. So like, how do you shift that? How do you keep people from killing each other? Granted, if you are a soldier, it's sanctioned. If you're out in the civilian population, it is not, unless you're like a policeman, something like that, right? So My thing is that guns are going to be there. It's just that you got assholes that are pulling the trigger. Like this guy in Nashville, apparently he was some active shooter. I just saw that earlier today when I was at the gym. So I don't think guns are bad. I don't believe that at all. I think people are just retarded, and they need to, how do you keep it out of idiots' hands? I think that's impossible too. So
You don't.
I say if these crazies are gonna have guns, then I want to have one too. Because if he starts letting off, I'm putting him down. Simple as that.
Nope.
Now, granted, it's not like I'm walking around concealed carrying either. You know what I'm saying? But I think that if someone has a gun, I'm gonna need a tool just as effective to protect myself and those that I care about, and even those that can't protect themselves. That's just me. So it's not about getting rid of all the guns because that's impossible.
So and obviously we should touch on a little bit, like I said, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, and the whole kind of, in my opinion, original truth behind that was so that the public could rise up against the government if the government starts getting
starts getting out of hand. The people run this bad boy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The people run this thing, and shit, that's why you had all the insurrections back in the day. People rise up and the government says, "Oh, whoa, my bad, we made the wrong choice." But the militias back in the day is what kept us from getting overrun through the Revolutionary War. You know what I mean, this is what keeps us safe even now. You know what I mean? Who's gonna just come through in America thinking that it's just the military that they got to deal with? You better think twice, baby. You got to get through with Texas. You got to listen. Even some of these blue states. Let's just be clear. People got guns out here. People got guns on both coasts, all coasts, in the middle. There's guns everywhere. So you're not gonna just show up in the states unless we give them up. That's one thing. But no one's gonna. I'm gonna tell you, the only way we're going to implode is gonna be self-destruction. That's how this place is gonna get overrun. Self-destruction. But
all right,
and when it comes to the gun violence, man, let's just be clear. Like, it's only a thing now, and this is just my personal opinion. It's only a thing now because some of these nice neighborhoods, suddenly now it has penetrated their neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? And other less fortunate parts of this country, some of these cities, whatnot, it's been a thing, but nobody gave a shit. But now, a Columbine gets hit. Some of these more affluent areas start getting hit, and now it's a problem. Just like drugs weren't like a thing. I mean, you already know, like what Chappelle said. You know what I'm saying? Like now all of a sudden it's getting to some of these other places where, like, little Timmy is getting strung out and people don't like it. Now it's a problem. When it's always been there. It's always been there. So I don't know. When it comes to the gun thing, kids been going through metal detectors even when I was in school, but now it's like a big issue because it's not in certain neighborhoods and it's affecting people that it didn't affect before, and now they want change. So that's just when it comes to gun violence. I say you can kiss my ass. It's not going to change. It'll always be a thing, and I don't think people should have to. They should always be able to bear arms if that's what they choose to do. Because one day it's going to work in everyone's favor. You're like, shit, good deal. I'm glad this guy's got guns. You know what I mean? Or I'm glad she's got guns. I'm glad she's packing heat, So, I don't know. It's just what it is, man. It's just life. So I say just get smart. Know how to protect yourself. Know how to handle it. If you see someone being an idiot with a weapon, make sure it gets safe or get the fuck out of there before you get popped. That's just
do you kind of give into any of the conspiracy hype that's out there? I mean, like the Las Vegas shooting a couple of years ago, saying that guy was, like, well, one of the ones I heard was the fact that essentially a certain somebody who was running for
Trump?
the hot seat. Nope.
Oh.
Someone. Sorry, I'm going to try to get you to do more of the talking on this one because I got a terrible cough going. But essentially, they were making a push to ban firearms. And that political party, they were saying was responsible for the Vegas shooting, that the guy didn't actually do it. And forensics was showing like, yeah, there's no way he could have shot here and from this window or that window and this angle and all these things. And there's no way he could have got all these weapons up here without being detected and all these different things. So they were basically making this big conspiracy that, like, isn't it convenient that right when they're trying to make this huge, ban for certain types of, weapons, that a mass shooting happens with all of these
Oh,
semi-automatic, suppressed, weapons, like
yeah,
that. And
absolutely.
so do you give
Yeah.
in to any of those kind of things? I mean, do you think there's some truth
uh,
there? Kind of like
you know what?
9/11 almost with the terrorist stuff?
No, I mean, granted, like I'm not smart enough to know. I don't have all the facts. Shoot, I don't know who does, other than those that investigated it. But I mean, it's like the same. Like for me, like I have a theory. Like when it comes to all that stuff, yeah. If someone's trying to push an agenda, what do? You create the situation where it is now. You can basically say, "See, I told you. Like I told you so." Right. So even with I don't know. I mean, you look at everything that happened in 2020 with the election. All this shit starts brewing up come election time. You know what I'm saying? All the shit starts hitting the fan come election time. As soon as the election was over, crickets, right? Everything just went quiet. So I wouldn't be surprised next year, 2024, we're gonna see more of the same nonsense that we've been seeing, same cycle. They're gonna start exciting a riot, getting people all riled up, trying to push votes one way or the other. Da 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 da. So yeah, no, I mean, I do believe I think I heard something on that. It was funny because like they were saying all that right, and then they were pushing for the ban on guns. You started seeing all these schools started getting shot up. I was like, what the fuck's going on? You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, it does play to whoever's agenda. It plays into their hands. So yeah, I mean, is there any truth in it? I do not know. I don't really get into it. I just say, you know what? It just makes me say to myself and to my daughter, be smart out there, keep your antennas up, be aware of your surroundings, keep an eye on folks because you don't know where it's going to come from. You could be at the wrong place, wrong time, and shit's going to go south real fast. So, you know, hopefully you know how to survive. I mean, out here in this world, it's always been like this, but like even now, I would say, survival is key. And the thing about it is that people now, especially these kids, some of these 20-year-olds and younger, whatnot, they have like zero situational awareness about anything because their phone has them completely detached from reality. And they wouldn't even know, they wouldn't be able to sense danger if it slapped them in the face, And I think that's a problem. No one's
Yeah.
living this real world. Everyone is in their phones, in this, they're texting, they're not paying any attention to what's going on around them. And then they get caught with their pants down over and over and over. So, I think it sucks. I think if everybody had, I mean, like if you go to like I'm not saying that it's, people are, any smarter, but I think people like say like in Israel are more prepared for shit potentially going down just because they're in a constant war state with their neighbors. So like I think people have like a little more of a situational awareness, like, that isn't supposed to be there, right? Like they're gonna be able to kind of see things a little, sooner, earlier than people out here in the states is kind of la 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 la. You know what I'm saying? Like it's stupid. You know, hence the reason why we have all these issues with what do I want to be when I get born. Like like we're over here, having these thoughts in the womb. Come out into this world and the shit hits the fan. So I don't know.
And
So yeah, gun
so I'll say
violence,
this too.
I think
I don't
it's
want people to
inevitable
think
and
that we're
whatever.
yeah, I don't want people to think that we're picking on the youth of the day necessarily. This is a list I pulled off of the internet of the top 10 hardest things to talk about with the youth of the day. So this is truly just kind of, I guess, our perspective on these issues, how we
Yeah.
see them, speaking from probably how we saw it when we were teenagers. But then I also, we're fortunate enough to have had the educated conversations with our you know our elders, I guess, who are 30, 40 years older than we are, who have seen some shit, and get their perspective as well. So, and I can tell you right now, like,
Yeah.
there's probably very few people who have ever served overseas who would try to tell you that guns are bad. And it's because they have
Hmm.
perspective. And there's probably very few people who grew up in the, 20s and 30s and 40s who would, tell you that the next topic, number 6, bullying, is a bad thing. They would say that that's just how you learn to get toughened up a little bit. No,
It's
I
life.
think now
It's
a lot of
life.
people just to draw things together, they'll say, well, it is life. You're going to deal with these folks the rest of your life. But people say, yeah,
Regardless.
but bullying leads to gun violence.
Eh, that's
No.
that's a certain type of individual who goes to that. Like you can go two different ways, right? You can get picked on and be a victim, and then go that route, right? I don't think that that's the way to go about it, but that's what you could do. Or because the thing is, if you're running around spraying everybody, that is bullshit, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you're getting picked on, what you do is you level up, and then you handle that bully. You know what I'm saying? First and foremost, do not just take it like a champ. Fight. You know what I'm saying? And there's but so much you could do. Like I get that. You know what I'm saying? Like some people, they're just assholes, and they're gonna pick on someone who's smaller and weaker than them, and for whatever reason, that's just how they move. However, if your response is, you know what, I need to learn how to fight. Once again, right? I need to know how to defend myself. This needs to end. And the thing is, like for me, like if I'm a little guy and I got this bully, if push comes to shove, I'm gonna shank that motherfucker, man. Like you're about to learn not to stop picking on me. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna show you something. Now I'm not gonna take out the entire school, but I'm coming for you. You know what I'm saying? And you'll have pushed me, right? Like I think when you push somebody into a corner, they will react one way or another. It's fight or flight. Some people they're running. They want like, hey, I want to be homeschooled, I want to change schools or whatever, and that's understandable, right? But to go and get you a
But
gun
I would
and just
also
start
I would
going
also
off on
argue that
everybody,
that's
it's crazy.
I would argue I think there's some delay on my end getting to your headphones,
Yeah.
but I would also subject that has to do with the fact that their parents aren't teaching them to stand up for themselves.
No, because
So,
everybody's telling you to all this peace love crap. It's not how it is. Tell your kid to harden up. Harden up. Because when you get out into this world, what are you gonna do when mommy and daddy is gone, right? And if you've been a helicopter parent this entire time, now your kid's out there having to deal with some real adversity. Because once again, if you are, I tell this to my little brother, man, whatever you avoid, it's going to rear its ugly head. It's just gonna manifest in some other way. You cannot run from what you're scared of. It's going to come back. It's going to kick your ass over and over and over until you deal with it head on. Simple as that, right? I don't want to do this, and then here you go. 10 years later, shit, here it goes again. And it's just gonna
or
keep popping
sooner,
up. So what are you gonna do?
or
Keep running?
sooner, yeah.
Eventually, you gotta take a stand. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But it's going to rear its ugly head. It's just what it is. So it's like you got to deal with what you deal. You got to deal with your fears. You got to deal with yourself, right? Like you have to fight back. Life's gonna keep pushing you and pushing you and pushing you until you buck back. It's not about
So,
and you can take the peaceful approach. I'm not saying that you have to fight in that way, but you got to find a way to. You have to learn how. You have to find a way to survive in this thing, where you're not constantly on the run and on the defensive. In my personal opinion, like if my kid's gonna get picked on, I'm immediately when she's with me, you are gonna be in Muay Thai. You know what I'm saying? And I expect you. So like this is what happened to me when I was a kid. This kid, we were like in some like sandbox or whatever. Kid comes to the sandbox. I was little. I was like maybe 5, 6 years old, but I still remember it. Kid comes to the park. I don't know, something happened, and then boom, boom, we get into the scrap. Kid pushed me around, punched me up a little bit, and I was like, and I go home. And my mom, I get to the house. My mom says, "What happened?" My sister's like, "Yeah, this kid beat Charles up, pushed him around, or whatever." And she was like, "You ain't coming in this house. I ain't raising no punks." And I was like, "Oh man." So she said, "Go back." She told my sister, my older sister, "Go back to that park. You go find him, and you go handle it." And I was like, "What the hell?" So I took my ass back over there, shook as hell, and I was like, "I want to go home." So my sister was like, "There you go. There he goes." I went over there and I wore his ass out. Now, granted, it's not like I went ahead and just got finished, Rocky Balboa and this kid. You know what I'm saying? But he did feel me. He walked away a little bloody. And then I felt better afterward because it's like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom gave me the green light. But if I didn't do that, then I'm constantly running. Who knows how many years later? And to this day, this is me telling you to this day. And I was like 5. You know what I'm saying? I'm much older now. Still remembering that. And I will always remember that. because fighting back is what you have to do. I don't, and if you're
Look,
a brain,
there's
say you don't go back and wear the kid out, but you create some type of device that fucks him up or something. I don't know, but you got to get some payback. It's how it
I
is,
think
man.
I think people will, if they can learn to, and we've talked about this so many times. If people can learn to cope and overcome, you can use that intelligence to your benefit. And you may not get your payback for years. You may never get your payback. But I mean, 20, 30 years later, and you're, a, a millionaire because you invented something or whatever. And now all of a sudden that bully is working for your corporation, making minimum wage. You don't have to whoop his ass. You kicked his ass in life. Okay.
100%.
And I think you will get this, and people who listen who grew up with parents like we did will understand this. I remember my dad getting a phone call one time from the principal saying, hey, your son's in the principal's office. He got into a fight. And my dad goes, did he start it or did he finish it? And that's pretty much how I was raised. Like, don't start it.
100%.
But if somebody starts shit with you, finish it. Period.
Yep.
Dot. So, okay.
Yep.
Now this is a good segue into number 5 on the list. People who don't know how to cope from bullying, they end up getting depressed. Depression is number 5. Go.
That's a tough one. Depression's tough because I mean, granted, depression's the same for everyone, but how we all react to it is completely different. I've definitely had my bouts of depression, big time, big time, big time. You know what I mean? And the thing is, depression could take you out the game. You know what I mean? To the point where people opt to self eliminate. You know what I'm saying? And just and come out and leave altogether, and that's rough. If I'm talking to my older self, I'm telling myself, bravo, you survived. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody comes out of that. So, especially if life is like good down the road, which I intend for it to be. You know what I'm saying? But, and the thing I'm saying like this, if people are young now, you learn how to deal with it now. Once again, you equip yourself for down the road when it comes up again, because it's going to happen again. Because life's not going to always just be perfect and hunky-dory. You know what I'm saying? And the easy way, I'm not going to say the easy way, but one of the ways that helped me deal with depression was being grateful and understanding what I had working for me as opposed to dwelling on what was working against me or what was I perceived to be working against me, And once I kind of wrapped my head around that, life got easier. I had something else to cling on to other than the negative. I had something to be like, you know what? Okay, like I do have this going for me. I have a lot of things going for me. I mean, my life in general is actually, if I really look at it, much better than a lot of people out there. If I look at it the right way, you know what I'm saying? Especially like having traveled as extensively as I have, like I know that I could easily be in another situation that isn't as fortunate as the situation I'm in right now. So once I kind of really started really being grateful for the small things. I'm not talking big stuff, man. Thank God I got all this money. No, it's nothing like that. It's just like, yo, I got good health and I got functional. My body is working at max capacity. Like it's working really well. I got food to eat, things like that. Like just the basics. My daughter's healthy. She's not out of her mind. She's not depressed. All these different things that are working for me. Then it became like, okay, you know what? I could deal with this other stuff. And the thing about it also, on top of that, understand that whatever's happening to you is very temporary. Very, very temporary. So you can weather whatever storm, but you got to weather it. If you don't weather it and you keep that cloud roaming over your head, I mean, everything's about a mind state. You got to be able to maintain a level mind state no matter what. You know what I'm saying? When shit hits the fan, keep your cool. And I say this is easier said than done. This is me older now. You know what I'm saying? But you take the emotion out of it, you start thinking, then you can kind of manage the depression. Because like I said, it's going to happen. Do not sit there and think that it's supposed to be smiles and parties and having a great time 24 fucking 7, 365. That is not how this game works. It's not how life works. You know what I'm saying? You got to deal with your peaks and your valleys the same way. Do not ride too high. Don't go too low. Try to just be level. You mean be stable throughout all of it,
So
and embrace it
I'm
all.
loving how
Embrace the good and the bad.
I'm loving how these are weaving together. So with that in mind, that level mental maintaining that you're talking about. Number 4 is relationship issues.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think the 20-year-olds of today are dealing with it?
Horribly. You know what I'm saying? Because these
And there's a follow-on question to that too. Part A, which you already answered horribly, but part 2 is they're probably coming out of the biggest generation of it's easier to divorce mentality, you know. And I mean, your parents got divorced. My dad died before I was born, but then I was raised by the same guy my mom's married to now. So I didn't go through divorce, but anyway, okay, relationship issues.
You know, I don't know. I'm not. I think being that people are overly sensitive now, they take things to like an extreme. Granted, relationships, a breakup is a breakup. It hurts. You know, it hurts. Like it sucks. You know, rejection on any level sucks. Especially if you were like heavy into it, and then they're like, I'm over it. Like I'm out. Right? I mean, you gotta. It's just once again, this is just life, you know. So I would say like, you know, the only thing I don't get now, I think it sucks because I think people look too much. I think that the problem I think is a lot of it is with the relationships. A lot of times people are making it something that it's not. You know what I'm saying? Some people's relationships are based upon it's manufactured love. You know what I'm saying? Like likes and all that stuff you get on social media is not a relationship. That's not real. You know what I'm saying? So I think some of these breakups that are happening when it wasn't even like a thing in the first place, uh, that's some new age
So
stuff.
would you submit that?
Like,
Would you submit? And I'm sorry for the delay again, but would you submit that kids these days are getting in more what I would consider to be status-based relationships? Where I mean,
time.
we had that back in the day. Like, oh, you're the quarterback of the football team, or you're the captain of the cheerleading squad, or you're the point guard on the basketball, whatever it may be that gave you status in high school.
Yeah.
Because trust me, the Elon Musks out there, their status in high school, you know what I mean? Like it did not give them power in high school. But I wonder if the same immature brains are looking at it, and instead of building quality relationships, they're still building bullshit status based. Oh, he's got 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 likes and followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's not going to amount to anything. And in fact, he's a piece of shit, but I'm going to go out with him because that's his status.
Absolutely. And that'll never change, right? Guys get status to get girls, right? You can not play for the sports team, but have like a really nice car, and chicks are gonna hop on your dick. It's just the game, you know. It's just that's just life. Once again, that's just life, right? The girls are gonna want the guy who's attractive, has the muscles, has things working for him. They don't give a shit about your brain. Oh, he's really smart, unless she is intelligent too, right? She respects that, right? It depends on the girl, but status is everything. You know, when you walk into any club, and this is why guys get VIP, right? They get the bottle service because it gives them some status. It gives them some type of level up on the rest of them, you know? Absolutely.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But, you know, to be normal, to be one of the many, that doesn't, how do you differentiate yourself? I mean, I mean, that's kind of like, you know, if you're larger than life, you have a perceived status. You know, if you're peacocking or whatever, you know, you're separating yourself, you know, and you're creating that aura, which gives you some type of power, some type of status, right? Where people are attracted to you. That's what people want, you know? So I mean, yeah, I don't think that'll ever change. But I think it's in terms of the relationships in your 20s. It's very, it's, you know, you have such limited life experience up until that point. It's hard to know what is and what isn't quality because you know, it's like you're playing like the numbers game, right? You're trying to amass all these friends and all that stuff. But it's not until you kind of get older where you're just like, you know what? I don't need this person. I don't need this person. I don't need this. I don't need that. And then you find like that circle of friends becomes like you start looking at the people who are really, really there for you, that really actually care about you, that actually want you to do well, that were with you before you had anything. And now that maybe you have a little bit of something, they're still there, ride or die, regardless. You know what I'm saying? If you had a hoopty, they were there. If you got a Benz now, they're like, oh, hey, congrats, man. That's awesome. Like, that's, you know, quality people in your life that you can actually depend on when shit hits the fan. If you lost it all tomorrow, they'd still be there like, hey, man, here's a beer. Let's go talk about it. And then they'll build you back up. It's hard to know that when you're in your 20s and you're trying to figure yourself out and you really don't know, you don't understand how people's angles are, how they're playing you, you know?
So I wonder similarly, I guess, except the way that I think, which is not super intelligent, but I wonder if we're losing some of the innocence in all of it. You know, I mean, as you were talking, I remember like my grandparents met in a square dancing hall,
Nice.
right? Like you don't
Yeah.
hear stories of even our generation, you know, like, oh yeah, we met at a bar. You hear some of it, you know, there's some like high school sweethearts still out there or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, it's, you know, like, and this is not true for my wife and I, but I couldn't imagine if it was, you know, telling my kids like, oh yeah, I met your mom on Tinder. You know what I mean? Like,
Ah, it's different though now. That's what that technology is changing the way people interact and how they date. So that is becoming, that will be a thing where it's like, oh yeah, like I met my husband on Bumble, and that's gonna be, oh okay.
yeah.
In the beginning, people didn't, they were kind of embarrassed by like, I met him online, you know, like it's kind of suspect, you know. But now it's just, that's just normal. You know, I mean, everybody's searching for somebody, and they don't have to be in a bar, they don't have to be in the world necessarily to make that connection. And then when they do meet them, they're like, oh wow, like I would have never found you if it wasn't for this app. You know what I'm saying? Because like now you, like, even me, I'm very anti-app. Like I've always have been, but it is, that's just the way of the world now. You know, it's an
It
option
it is, but
and it's a tool
that's
to
why I
increase your
say
chances.
I wonder if we've lost some of the innocence there now, though. You know, I mean, like I know you're a big
Mm.
reader. You know, meeting somebody in a Barnes and Noble, you know, it would probably be romantic to you. I don't know that there's any romanticism in swiping right and then meeting up with somebody, you know, hoping they're not some creeper stalker person, you know, that you swipe. Like it was one thing when it was like
Yeah, yeah.
eHarmony and Match.com and those types, you know, like I felt like there was more, they were more in it for like the true feelings. And you're like, okay, I like what I see. I like what I'm reading. Let's meet up for coffee or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But these tender ones, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you think for a second, like, you know, our kids and grandkids aren't going to know what those social media outlets were about, or I'm just going to call it what it is, a social hookup type of scenario. I mean, like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the truth is, oh, yeah, I was trying to just get laid, you know what I mean? But I ended up falling in love. There's a different type of romanticism in that, but it's not meeting at a square dancing hall and, you know, your eyes catch
But I
from across the
mean,
room.
true indeed. But at the same time, even if you met at that dance hall, you're trying to get laid. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, there's girls. I'm a guy. This is the place to meet women so I can get laid. You know, now it's just that I can just find you on an app and swipe right. Or I can go. And the thing about it, like, people who want to get laid, where do you go? You go to the places where women are going to be, right? Like, this is what it is. So now women are online. Women are.
You're not wrong, but I do think there was more innocence in it back then. I think that men respected women more. I think women had more respect for themselves, and it
Oh, for
wasn't
sure.
just swipe right, meet for coffee, go back to his place, fuck, and then go back and swipe right again on someone else. You know, like
But
it
that's not
was
how
there
we
was
operate now.
the
Like now
media,
it's
right?
yeah.
But I
But I
mean,
mean, it's
what
socially accepted now, though.
I think that's no, and I'm all about it. Trust me. I mean, I was a single man in
Yeah.
Hollywood for many years. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. I'm just simply
No, no,
asking the
yeah, yeah.
question of, have we lost some of the innocence in the courting of someone
Hmm.
you're going to spend the rest of your life with? And what's the story?
Yeah.
And really bringing this full circle, what's the story you want to tell your grandkids?
I okay. You know what? I would say yes. Yes, I would say some of the innocence is lost, mainly because of what it how things have changed now. Everything's sexualized now, right? I mean, everything you see on TV is it's all sexualized. Girls, they having that standard is not. This isn't the 40s and the 30s, and it's not that anymore. Women are different now, and women will go get the dude. Some of these guys are like that are shy. They're like, Psh, "Come here, I want some of that D." You mean like, "Oh snap"? You know what I'm saying? These chicks are in their DMs. These girls are coming after you. You know what I'm saying? So there is no more of that courtship where they're waiting and they're kind of making the icon. There is that out there. There definitely is that out there, but people are, I think women are more aggressive now. Guys, they don't really, let's just be clear. The fact that you can be like, "Hey, yo, bitch, I want to know what's your name?" And she's like, "Ha, ha, ha, that's cool." Like that's accepted now, right? It's fair game now. Everything it's wide open. The fact that you can say that to a woman and it's not, and she's like, it's accepted. I would never say that to a girl, but I've seen dudes be like, "Oh man, I love that bitch right there." Oh, this is my bitch or what? I'm like, but that's not how I operate. But that's the
There's
world
got to
now.
be a
You know what I'm saying?
there's got to be something behind why they allow that to be acceptable, though. You know what I mean? Like, I know my wife would never accept
Mm,
that, and I
well, no,
guarantee
and
none of the women in your family would be okay with you
absolutely
doing
fucking
that or
no. I
being
didn't come up
referred to
like
as that.
that.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
I didn't come up like that. But it
And
is like
if
something that's
somebody ever
accepted now.
if some young man shows up to your door one day to take your daughter out on a date, and he's like, "Yo, bitch, get in the car,"
Oh
I
no,
have a feeling
I
she's not stepping out the house.
I would hope not, because I'm gonna be looking at her crazy. Like, are you kidding me right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is your who you chose. This is you let him talk to you like that. This is, and for me,
Well,
I'm thinking like, what? How
first of
else is
all,
he
if
gonna
I'm
treat
there,
her?
if I'm there while you're having this conversation with her, I'm walking my happy ass out and I'm getting in the car. Like, let's go on a date, bitch.
Oh man, yeah. No, but that's what I'm saying though. It's so, and I think when it comes to that, right? And I'm not knocking like females, like they operate how they want to operate. You know what I'm saying? But I don't. For me, that's not a thing for me. But it is. I mean, shit, man. It's accepted where women just aren't. I don't know. Girls are different now. They're just different now. They
Yeah,
do different stuff now. The times have certainly changed. I mean, look, this the world that we live in now is nothing like what we grew up in. It's like flipped upside down on its head. The thing about it, though is that traditional stuff that you're talking about that is in the mainstream wise is definitely lost. It's still there. Those girls are still out there. Those guys are still out there. That they are still courting. Like they might be using the app, but they're still polite. They're like, hey, like would you like to go on a date? Would you like to talk? I mean, that's still happening, but no one is making that like the standard because everyone's trying to dismantle tradition. They want to get rid of it. What I mean? This is why they're trying to tear down all these things. They're like, that's how it used to be. Well, now we want to do it like that, right? But that extreme stuff is what they put on TV because that's what sells. But nobody wants to see that. What I mean? You see that story, that love story on TV, stuff like that. Like it's still happening, but it's just not. It's just not mainstream.
not as
So I don't
prevalent.
know. Oh, I mean,
All right,
I think it is, but like I said, no one's really talking about it. So
so I'll throw these top three all into one category because really they are all one category, and I'll just go
mm-hmm.
with I'll tell you the category and then I'll ask you a question. So the category is substance abuse. Okay, so it's
Mm.
number three is I don't know why they separate it, but number three is marijuana. Number two is prescription drug use, and number one is alcohol. So the category I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to say is substance abuse, and my question
Okay.
is how. And I've had this question asked of me. I've thought it when I'm by myself multiple times. How do I explain to my daughters, my kids, 20 somethings now, whatever, and even if I'm pretending to be a 20 something now,
Mm-hmm.
how do I defend or otherwise suggest not to do something that I actively do?
You know what? I'm gonna tell you like this. When it comes to anything like that, I would say all things in moderation. You know what I'm saying? All things in moderation. Don't abuse anything, right? I mean, granted, like, yeah. I mean, you can show them what it looks like to be an addict. It's not fun, you know. But like, if you're gonna do something, like, yo, hey, like, who am I to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't do? But if you abuse it, now you created this monster. It's hard to get that monkey off your back. You know, shit. I mean, look at me. Like, for me, I drink. Now, granted, I don't think it's excessive, but to normal folks, it's excessive, you know. But what I'm addicted to is more so a lifestyle. You know what I mean? Where when I go out to like a public place, I do like to have a drink, but it's not just one, two. Like me and when we get together, it becomes like an all-out like drinking fest, and we just let the good times roll. Now, do I drink every single day? I don't wake up and have like, oh man, I gotta take a shot or whatever. It's something like that. However, you know, I guess that's where my balance is, where I'm not at home drinking for the sake of drinking and stuff like that. But all things in moderation. If you're gonna smoke weed, then yeah, if you're gonna do that, do that. But also understand the impact it's gonna have too, right? Like if you cannot control yourself, if you lose control, then you're done. If you can't just stop, then you've lost, and you have, or not, you haven't lost, but you have some work to do to get it under control, where it's not consuming you, where you become a fiend. Like for anything. So I mean, I got family that does all the things, and it sucks to see them like kind of they're lose. It's like a losing battle over and over and over to whatever that substance is, prescription or whatever. I mean, I say, it's your life. You do what you want to do with it, but the impact that it has, if you're allowing it to destroy your life, then I think you need to reassess. So like that would be like my thing is like, you know what? If you have like a handle on it, it's not impacting you in a negative way. Do you?
Or other
You
people?
know, but if you're abusing it, yeah, or other people, which ultimately, if it's destroying you, it's gonna hurt other people because people are gonna be like, "Yo, what the fuck? Get your life together!" Right now, people are concerned about you, so now you're taking up their mind space. So if you can manage it and keep it under control, and it's not having a negative impact on your life, do you? I mean,
Yeah.
shit. I mean, everybody has their thing. Nobody's immune to that. I mean, shit. The thing is,
Steve-O,
it doesn't have to be like substance abuse, right? It could be like snacks and stuff. Like some people overindulge on sweets, and they are supremely unhealthy. You know what I mean? They got
yeah,
crazy guts, and they've just abused the hell out of those ding dongs and ho hos and cupcakes and all that shit. And now they got diabetes. You know what I'm saying? And like, yo, you overdid it. You need to find a balance. Like cut it out already. So it doesn't have to be this prescription stuff. I mean, granted, like, Mary J, she's grown out of the little photosynthesis creates that. But, you got to just know when to say, okay, you know what? I got my little, I got my fix, I guess you could say, but it doesn't control my life where I can't turn it off when necessary, do what I got to do. And then when it's done, I can go back to enjoying and partaking, you know?
yeah,
So, um,
yeah. I wish I could quote it more eloquently, but Steve-O from Jackass, he was a
mm-hmm.
addict for a very long time of multiple substances, but he talks about a little bit. He's like, it wasn't the alcohol consumption or drug consumption that was the problem. He goes, that was the medication that suppressed the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, right. So, I mean, kind of taking
Yeah.
a little bit of a different angle on addiction. He's like, the addiction wasn't the bad part. The bad part was what I had to face when I was sober, which
100%.
was sober me in the mirror. And that right there is, when you think about it, that's eye opening.
100%. 100%. I mean, and I relate with that because there was a long time. I told you this before. I used to do my Triple H every Friday, But I used to crush like a bottle and a half, sometimes two of Henny. Wouldn't even think nothing about it, right? And it became like this ongoing thing. That was just my way to kind of. But I was going through some serious stuff, right? I was in my own personal hell. But I had to. I heard this thing. It was on the Big Sean, the rapper. He had like
Mm-hmm.
this one particular song or something like that. At the very end of the track, his dad's just dropping fucking gem on him. He's just like, you know what? This is one part of it though. He said a whole bunch of other things, but one thing that kind of stood out to me was like, life is a feeling process. And when he said that to me, it just resonated with me. It kind of sat on me for a little bit. He's like, it's a feeling process. I was like, huh. And I was like, well, if that is indeed true, I am numb 90% of the time, 90% of my day. And why am I numb? Because I drink all the time, and I do that because I don't want to deal. That's for me. That's my escape, right? That was my escape. So then I was like, you know what? I need to, if I want to get better, I have to deal with it. I have to face it. So I made it a point to. This is why I don't drink by myself anymore. You know, now I had to when I stopped doing that. Now it's like, you know, when I wanted to, when I was just like, fuck, like this sucks. What I would normally do is start pouring up. Now I'm not pouring up. Now I'm like dealing with all the emotion. I'm dealing with everything. I'm dealing with thoughts. I'm dealing with all that stuff. And I faced it head on. And then after a while, it didn't, that onslaught of all of that was hitting me, it began to taper out as time went on. And I was able to now think in the midst of all of that. And then it became just something I could just be like, no big deal. And I could just dust it off. And and then it helped me build my own coping mechanism outside of the booze. It's like me now, I'm a social drinker. I just go out and I have a good time with folks. Hey, but I can go home and sit here and just relax and enjoy my me time and, maybe snack on some Cheez-Its. For me now, I'll have like a cup of tea. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a whole different vibe now as opposed to this sucks. Like, because that's usually what people do, right? They say, life gets hard. What do? They go to the bar. It's like, fuck. And they just start pouring up. But I was like, I needed to change that because that was more destructive, instead of being constructive. It wasn't helping me. This is why I went to the books too. I started reading and it started helping me sort out a lot of this stuff that was in my head that I wasn't making sense of it. And it started, the wisdom of other people smarter than me, older than me, wiser than me, started helping me to interpret life differently, which made it easier for me to cope, which then I didn't need to have alcohol. I didn't need to have any other substance to help me deal with life because life is a fucking beast. You know what I'm saying? But once you kind of have that motherfucker tamed, it becomes more enjoyable.
So I'll wrap up today's session with this. And one, thank you for carrying the weight of this session. I actually think this was pretty incredible, and it is. There's some heavy topics in there, but I'll wrap it up with this. I think with time and discipline, right? Like all things can be resolved, whether it's a mental thing, a physical thing, whatever the hurdle is. And you touched on it just now too, and it was beautiful to hear you say it because I was going to mention this too. You talk about learning from people older and wiser. Find a mentor, and don't find somebody who's never been through your shit. Find somebody who's 20 years older than you are, who's been where you're at, that you trust, and listen to them. And then with time and discipline, you will see the results that you want to see. And I don't care what it is, whether it's an addiction, whether it's a bullying situation, a heartbreak, relationship failure, whatever it may be. Find a mentor, time, discipline, and you're going to be, you'll eventually be the guy who's 80 years old that has a really good story to tell.
Absolutely. What does it say in the Bible? This too shall pass. Yo, man, it's temporary. Look at it as a season. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, it's going to have to shift. It can't last forever. Nothing. Even the good. Remember that. Like, you can't last forever. You got to go back to normal. So weather the storm. While you're in it, deal with it. Learn from it. Embrace it wholeheartedly. Because that's where you're making your money, man. Right. I'm talking in the bullshit, in like the most difficult time in your life. That's where you're making your money. So you should embrace that wholeheartedly and be looking forward to it. Actually, when you get good at it, like for me at this point now, challenges that I have to face, I'm like, bring it on, motherfucker. Let's go. Because I know that I'm going to come out of it way better than before I went in. And it's only a challenge because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I haven't been here before. This is new to me. Right? So now once I get my head wrapped around, it's like, oh, shit, now I got it. Challenge. It's done now. I've faced it. I beat it. And now life's got to figure something else to fuck with me. You know what I'm saying? But now if I figure it out, what can I do? Pass it on. Now my kid has that knowledge. Hey, I got, like you said, the mentors, right? Hey, I know exactly what you're talking about. Shit, this is what I did. You know what I'm saying? I know, and you can almost speak, you can pretty much become like you can see what's going to happen to them in the future. They're like, yeah, whatever. And as it starts, this is what my brother started paying attention more and more to what I said, because I was like, hey, here's your options. You can do this, and this is what's going to happen. Boom, 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 boom. Or you do this, or you do this. But I'm trying to tell you, this is probably your best route. He did all the ways that I told him, you probably shouldn't do that. And then he was like, And I was like, hey, do this. And as he did it, he's like, I think you were right. So to this day, right, he's like, hey, can I get your advice on something? I'm not saying that I'm some oracle, but like, when you've lived through some things, you understand some things, you understand how this world works, and, you can give people some food for thought that's actually going to benefit them, as opposed to if you ran your whole entire life, going back to what we were talking about before. If you've been a runner, you learned shit. You have nothing to offer people. You have nothing to offer someone younger than you, because you're still in the same place that they are. And all you're going to tell them is to run as well. There's a time and place for that shit. And there's times to
let me share two things with you real quick. And this is just really cool for me. And again, you're saying these things and it's just generating more thought. One of the coolest things for me was realizing that I went from, and I don't mean always being a mentee, but I went from being a mentee to being a mentor when all of a sudden a younger generation was asking me the same questions I used to ask my mentors. And the exact same thing you just said, I'm like, I can tell you exactly how this is going to go down. You got two choices, like you said, option A and option B. The second coolest thing that's happened to me when I realized, man, I must have been listening and paying attention and my mentors must see it, was when my mentors actually came randomly, not all of them, but on occasion, and asked my advice. That's when you know you're getting respect.
100%. Yeah, man. No, that's outstanding. And then the game, like I said, it's a beautiful place once you kind of figure it out. And you kind of, you've been battle tested. And I think it's awesome. But you got to weather that storm, baby. Weather it. So all you 20-year-olds out there, hey, man, the only thing is you're doing the exact same shit that we did as kids. It's just like now it's just evolved into something else. All this technology and shit, it's a different battlefield. You know what I'm saying? And granted, I'm navigating it, but you guys are coming up in this different world, but the rules are still the same. The rules have not changed in any way, shape, or form. It's just different, it's more in your face, I guess you could say. It's more invasive too with these phones and stuff like that. So, hey man, if you're on the ledge and you're thinking about jumping, shit, sometimes jumping's a good thing. I'm not saying jumping in terms of like ending it all, but I'm saying like take the plunge and dig into yourself and and battle it out, man. Battle it out, because I'm trying to tell you, like, you will get through it. You will learn something from it if you take the time, pay attention. So never give up. I'm trying to tell you, if you give up, you're done. Keep pressing, keep pushing, keep fighting, and you will win. I promise you that. That's something that I know for sure. But you cannot win if you give up, because then you take yourself out of the game. So, yeah, man, it's a great chat. Great chat. Good list. That hour went by extremely fast. So,
it's very productive, though, man. Yeah. All right. Catch you on the next one.
Borderline on your deathbed, sneezing and all that. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. All right, man. Take it easy. Rest up. Take some NyQuil or something. All right. Peace.